Hello, everyone. Welcome to another wonderful edition of Voice for SMEs. On Voice for SMEs, we talk about SMEs and issues that affect them. And we also talk about upcoming SMEs and give them a voice. So, as usual, my name is Ayo Emakhiomhe, and with me are two wonderful people. They will be talking or guiding us on the topic we'll be talking today, in which they are experts on. And the first person, a wonderful lady, that's Ethel.
Hello, thanks for having me.
And we have John.
And I hope I'm wonderful too.
Yeah, no. For a guy, you are awesome. So you are both very welcome,
Thank
and
you.
it's an honor having you on this program today.
Thank
We hope we'll be able to trash a lot of issues concerning what we'll be talking about.
Yes.
And our topic today is branding. Branding for SMEs. It's for SME, usually it seems abstract. As in the average SME, when I mention branding, they tell me, what's that? I don't need that right now. When I'm a big company, when I'm in the Fortune 500, then I would discuss branding. So if that's what you came to talk about, please put it in the back door. But my question, which takes us straight to the first question, do you think that is true?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think in the last maybe decade or so, the question of branding has come to the fore. But it has existed since time immemorial. All branding does is that it gives your brand an essence. It gives it personality.
Identity.
Yeah,
Look at identity.
a personality really.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, the way it feels, the way it smells, the way it talks, the way it walks, the way it affects everyone is what totally makes up the brand. So it's a brand essence. That's branding. It's a product essence of the product or
Yes.
service. Yeah.
So for an SME, the branding will be mainly on the product or the company or both, or as in.
It would depend on what the SME
It's for.
is for.
Okay.
You know, if it's if it's a company that has a strong product base into manufacturing or stuff like that, then of course, depending on what the SME itself has structured as its product, as a scope of business,
Okay.
you know, yeah. So it's quite a deep topic. You know,
Very.
you see that I have a little difficulty trying to
Bringing it down.
sort it out. Yeah, trying to simplify it. It's a huge thing that clings on to the entire marketing, you know, thrust, entire business thrust of your company.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you so much. But Ethel,
Sure.
one man business.
Yeah.
I am the accountant, I am the marketer, I am the security man, I am the gardener. And then you tell me that in running around to collect the money and make ends meet, I must have a logo. I must have a color. How does that put money in my pocket?
You know one thing about logos and colors is it's attractive. Like it's it's what makes you unique and what makes you different. You know, like if you like GT Bank,
Okay,
like there was an ad.
they are not paying for this, but go ahead.
there was an ad. Yes, they are not, but okay, there was an ad. I think a particular bank put up, and then they used colors from different banks.
Okay.
And then when they put it out, without being told, people just understood that these people were actually dropping subliminal messages referring to these banks.
Okay.
They had an elephant and someone on an elephant, which we know a particular bank uses.
Yes.
They had somebody going to the moon in an astronaut without direction. So they had stuff like that. That is what logos do for you. They speak for you when you're not talking.
Yes, but look at the companies you mentioned.
Yeah.
Not Ethel Enterprises.
No, okay. Another thing, like regardless of how small or big your business is, it is still a business. It's for
Yes.
making capital, and you enjoy what you do, and then you want people to identify with you, not just what you have to give or what you're
Okay.
producing, but what your entire outlook is like. You know, like Click TV Africa, we have like our African logo, we have our font, we have our, because there's a lot that goes into the logo.
Okay.
So it's once people see, even without just at first glance, like, oh, this is
Okay, so
creativity
it
I've done.
stands you
It
out.
stands you out from other people.
Which can be later, not now.
Which can be which can be later, not now. But it's
No,
it's
No,
something
I mean,
it's
a
something it
question,
grows
as
into
in,
it
must
grows.
you start it now?
As a matter of
Yeah.
fact, you
Yes,
you
because it's
you
part of
start
your
it,
yeah. You
yes.
start it now,
Yes.
marketing purposes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Even if you haven't started doing anything, but when people get used to seeing your logos and your fonts or something like,
It becomes
and
your
then once
identity.
yes, it becomes an identity, and then when you start providing your service or you're dropping your goods, people are like, oh, I know this. Oh, this is what you do. Oh, then it becomes whole. Yeah.
If we try to bring it a little back home, it's like having a baby
Okay.
without a name. Okay.
My company has a name already.
Yes. So,
So-
you when you have your baby,
Mm.
you name the baby
Yes.
at the shortest possible time.
Of course.
I know that some people may wait for us 6 months and keep calling the baby
Baby.
baby. But the important thing is to give your child an ID,
Okay.
a name, right?
Mhm.
Right from
The
almost I even gave my daughter a name before she was born.
Wow.
See.
Yes, my daughter. I'll give you a little story there.
Okay.
We didn't know the sex of the child,
Okay.
and we had named the child. We said we wanted a girl, and we had named that child Alero. And because we didn't know the sex of the child, it became a joke between my wife and I that if this child turns out to be a boy,
What will happen?
she will be the first child
To be called
to be
Alero.
the first boy to be called Alero.
Alero.
So it's important that you give all that your brand or your service needs, right from the word go.
That's awesome.
Yes.
So, based on what you're saying, that means even the branding starts even from the company name.
Yes, it starts from the company name.
It starts from the company
Company
name.
font. It comes
Okay.
from the font, the style, the
choose
color
fonts,
you
choose
use.
the color.
Yes,
Color.
and how yes.
What's important, as in, what has color got to do with it?
You know one thing. For my little knowledge about colors, there are colors that have meanings.
Okay.
Yes, you have yellow, red. Red is for danger. You something is daring, bright, bold. Yes, it's very brave. Red. Then we have white for purity, cleanliness. So if you have, and then you have like now, if you want to have an agricultural company, you can't have an agricultural company with a red and yellow logo. You have green on it. You have olive green on it. You can even have different
Shades
of green, but it has to be green because it's agriculture, and then green leaves and all of that.
Life.
Green means life. Then you have if you have a solar company, for example, and then even if you don't want to go for the whole sun thing, you can do colors like gray, like black, because they are metallic colors that can they can link or are attributed to
Okay.
things like
You do.
yes, you do.
Okay.
So there are colors that have meanings, and then you have to use those colors to represent what your brand is about and what you do.
So.
I will warn you. Though. I will warn you in the sense that you put it in the context of your culture, because the moment you start crossing borders and cultures, colors would mean different things.
Yes.
So, in some climes, you will find that black will connote mourning, and in some other areas, mourning may be represented by white.
Interesting.
Okay, in some places they won't even touch the color red.
Yes.
So,
yes.
but when we come to international marketing, that will be spelt out better.
Yes.
Because the things you say, the way you represent your brand or your service, would there are some companies that have been forced to change their brand colors because they are entering into
In new markets.
new markets.
Yes.
So we have to be careful about the connotations
Okay.
of colors and smells and
Yes.
representations.
That is where research comes to play.
Yeah.
Because if you have a target market like countries like Russia, you have maybe an African country, whatever you're doing, you have to check out what don't these people like? What there are some things they don't that they consider as taboos.
Yes.
Yes. So there are some sayings, greetings, words you can't use. So when you are creating your logo, your slogan, your colors, you have to make sure
That is
that
in line
is
with
in line with all of the, even if when you're moving to new waters, whatever branding you're taking to that place, advertisements, paper, print, broadcasting, you have to check through and make sure it's not something that will give, like lately a particular school put up a billboard ad about rape, and then they attributed it to immoral dressing. And then we all know that whether you are dressed properly or you're not dressed properly, anybody that wants to rape you will rape you. So there was a lot of social media backlash at them. You know, like they had a lady with a picture of button neck top, and sure every other person had button neck shirts and all that, but people wear hijab, cover all through, and they still go through this problem. So that is where research comes to play. You have to know how to package your information in such a way that it's appealing and it doesn't cause people to get angry.
Precisely.
You know?
Precisely. I was actually going to remark your lipsticks. I will talk about your lipsticks now.
Okay.
But there are simpler things. I mean, even your language, even your mannerisms.
Yes.
In some places, if you nod, it means yes. Okay. Right. In some areas, it's when you shake your head.
It means
that
yes.
It means yes.
Sometimes nodding might even be a greeting.
Nodding may be a greeting. So, like she said, you need to properly research into all of those things.
That.
Even locally, yes. You find those little differences, and all of those things, will make up your final branding. Branding.
But is it possible you do branding, or before I go into that, what are the key things one should look at as an SME that must be there to form part of the brand? I know one is the name. Like, what else that basically do you think an SME would need to, should be available for a small business to say, okay, I'm already in the process of branding?
Well,
you've said the name,
yes,
said
the
color.
name, the color, the logo, the font.
Okay, the logo.
Yes, the logo, the font you use.
The fonts.
Yes, the synchronization of the logo, the font, the color all together.
They must sync.
Yes, they must sync. And also, brand and merchandising. Yes, to keep your name out there.
How do you mean?
Like, you have things like pens, books with your logo on it, mugs.
That's
you walk into your
display
office.
materials.
Yes, display materials, exactly. Yes, you have stuff like that. And then also the way your customer service is a form of branding. The way you attend to your customers and the way you relate to them, the kind of relationship you have with them is also a form of branding. Okay. Because it even stays in their mind like, oh, customer service is actually good. I would like to work with them again. I would like to get them on this project again. Stuff like that, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And Ethel has broken it down. I wouldn't have broken it down in that fashion. I simply would have just told you that you look at all the senses.
Okay.
The
Five
way,
senses.
the look, the smell, the touch, the taste.
The taste.
Those are the things. Those are all the elements. Because you'll be surprised that the smell, for instance, may mean something significant.
Yes.
Especially when you're dealing with a brand that is maybe smell sensitive.
Yeah.
You may even be running a bank, right?
Yes.
And decide to choose a particular aroma.
Yes.
That
will be everywhere.
That will be everywhere in all of your banking halls.
Yeah.
So the topic of branding is not one that I'm sure that can be fully exhausted
here
in a 30-minute program. It's something that people have written books on.
Yes.
So, and you really have to be careful because I think a lot of us are mixing it up. When the American walks on the road with a limp intentionally, it's part of his own personal branding. He wants to distinguish himself, Mr. A, from Mr. B. It's not as if he just got run over by a bus. So branding is the personality that you give to your product or service. I also want to say that your branding, you may have branding at a corporate level. Okay, that's the branding that you give to your as a corporate entity, and where you have products or other services under that corporate entity. Each one of them
will not have a unique brand.
Its own unique brand, but all still aligned
with
to
the main
overall.
brand.
So it can get complex, and it needs to be properly managed.
Which means for every business there must be a main message, probably the mission or the vision.
Of course,
that
certainly.
drives the brand.
Oh yes.
Which will now align with the product.
Oh yes. That's
okay.
Without that, you've not even started business. So you have to, like you said, you have to properly define, the brand, the vision, the mission,
aims and objectives,
yes.
goals,
all of that,
short-term,
all that you
long-term
stand
goals,
for,
yes.
short, medium, long term.
Long-term goals.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and that's what drives the message and the brand and the color and the logo.
Yes, and all that.
Everything.
Okay. So that takes me to the next part. Now, we've said so much, and for an average SME would have been calculating, okay, they said I must have logo and color, so that's letterhead. How many reams of paper will I buy? What will be the cost? Then you said display materials, calculating all that. Is it possible to have a brand and at a minimal budget?
Yes. There are things as simple as face cap and a t-shirt. Might just be only you. But every time you're going to deliver at a certain place, there's a certain shirt you wear that has your logo and your cap on it. Like we at Click TV Africa, whenever you have events, we always wear our Click TV Africa shirts and caps. So when even if you don't see our cameras, and once you see like Click TV Africa, oh, Click TV Africa, oh, and then you're like, oh, what is Click TV Africa? Let me check. That is part of it.
Okay.
So even if you don't go all out, you can even start with the logo, and then it's social media. Just post your logo everywhere. Have people to sponsor it. People post on their page. Oh, this is this logo. Oh, people come to say, why did you put this logo? They want to know why.
Okay.
Even without any caption or whatever. Yes, you can do that.
Yeah. Again, my darling
she has broken it down.
I wouldn't have given you so much privilege. I simply would have said that we're talking footprints. Yeah? Wherever you go as a brand, with your brand identity, you're expected to leave your footprints in one manner or the other. And it's a very deep statement, right? Your company driver goes out and he picks up a fight in the middle of the road, right? And he's wearing your shirt.
Branded shirt.
He's already
damaging the brand.
Or he gets out of the car, lights up a cigarette. There are ways that those things, so there is so much to do, in coming up with your
brand,
your branding or brand image, right, and sustaining it. Now, the question actually was on
cost.
Was on
minimal
cost.
budget.
Yeah, minimal budget. I'll tell you, when I started out as a small company, I didn't have to print my letterheads. I had it designed. I even had my complimentary cards designed. Maybe because I have a graphics background, it was easier for me. But anyone can do it. I had it designed and I had it stored in my system. Anytime I had to do a letter, I'll print it out. One page, one sheet.
Which is cheaper.
And I couldn't even use up one ream of paper in how many months as a small business. So you don't really need, there's so many things that you can plan for, right? If you did it the first time and you found out that I didn't go through a ream of paper in 6 months, so why would you want to produce 12 reams? So why don't you just find a cheaper way of doing these things? And then again, I must warn that as a small size business, you're expected to evolve, grow, and modify a lot of your stuff. Not only in your stationery, but even in your business itself. So you have to be careful with the way you spend, and the long-term supplies that you put in place. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Which means I got something in between what you were saying. What I got was that means the brand drives the culture of the business.
The brand drives,
defines the culture.
The brand, you see, now you're putting me in
in a spot.
you're putting me in a chicken and egg.
chicken.
You're putting me in a chicken and egg situation, right?
Okay.
I was tempted to say a quick yes, brand, but you see, even the brand itself, if you remember that even the brand itself, the birth of the brand itself was decided by the corporate entity.
Yes.
Right. So why would you want to say you're putting the brand before the culture? You know, because the culture of the brand has been predetermined
By the
at a corporate level, at a high level.
That means I was correct when I said it drives the culture.
It drives it.
Yeah.
Is that what it means? Okay, then you may be absolutely right. But like, you know, the point I'm trying to make is that you know, we have to be careful which comes first, because you will find that it's unfortunate that I can't name brands here, but there are some companies that are better known by their brands than by the corporate names.
That's true.
Now, because of the size of, we know of the popular soft drink, yeah. And if I asked 20 people what the name of the company behind it, you know, really is,
everybody's used to the brand name.
Yes, and there are several brands like that,
many.
and some of those brands have even become generic brands. You know, they become. I'll give you an example. Do you know that nylon is a brand name?
Yes.
Nylon is a brand name. Do you know that petrol is a brand name?
Wow, really?
Yes, petrol is a brand name.
I'm just hearing that.
Yeah. So you'll find that your brand can get so strong that it could even buy you over.
Yeah, there are some companies that their brands are 5 times more valuable than the business itself.
Extremely. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yes.
That's awesome. There is so much to talk about in branding. So much. But I think our time is fast spent for today's edition, and we are going to move on, and hopefully you will be available for next week's edition.
I thought you would ask for an additional 1 hour so we could talk some more.
My producer is not paid for. So next week we hope very soon we'll still call you back again and continue this discussion on branding. It's been awesome having you, and I love the combination from your connection, from your definition and her own contribution. You know, there is so much to hear and so much to balance up.
Yeah.
It was really awesome. Thank you. And again, this is Voice for SME. We are here regularly, and we're on social media at Voice for SME, and we're also here on Click TV. So please, you can come to www.clicktvafrica.com and see previous editions and this edition in case you missed it. Thank you again for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for viewing this edition today, and see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.